Hello, I'm Dr. Feinberg. Today's lesson is on the story impression. You will need 3 pieces of paper and a pencil. Once you find those materials, let's get ready to write. Please click the arrow in the bottom right corner of your screen. A story impression is a list of words that have to do with what happens in the story. And it starts at the top with things that start at the beginning of the story and then goes through in sequence to the things that happened at the end of the story. But it doesn't give you all the details about the story. So let's take a look at this story impression. And in your mind, I want you thinking, what could this story be? So we have a little girl to grandma's house, in woods, meets wolf, grandma in bed, wolf arrives, little girl arrives. Did you figure out what story it is? Take a moment to hover your cursor at the bottom of this screen and record your answer. Tell me, which story does this story impression go with?
It's Little Red Riding Hood.
Did you guess Little Red Riding Hood? You were correct if you did. So I wrote a paragraph here, and I used the clues in the story impression. I underlined them, and I put them in the order that they occurred from top to bottom. And I filled in all the words and the details of what that story of Little Red Riding Hood might be. Take a moment and read my paragraph, noting those underlined words that come from our story impression. When you're ready, go on to the next slide. On this slide, I wrote a different story using the same clues in the story impression. Little girl to grandma's house in the woods, but I pretended that I didn't know the story of Little Red Riding Hood, and I made up another silly story. I was still able to use all those words, but it's not the story of Little Red Riding Hood. Take a moment and read my silly story here, and notice that I still use the story impression within it. Okay, here's one more example of a story impression. Let's read down the words. Invitation, can't go. Fairy godmother, ball, meets prince, loses glass slipper, happily ever after. If you know what story this story impression is from, go ahead and respond in either a video or a voice recording.
It's Cinderella.
Now you're going to get to do some writing. So this story impression, I know that you haven't read the story that goes with it. The words are turkey, pancake, to the doctor, into the dining room, contest, and to the circus. In this story, all those words are in it, and they go in that order. So take one of those pieces of paper that you have in front of you and write the story that you think could go with these words. Make sure you use all the words, use them in that order, and underline them in your writing. When you're done with your story, record yourself reading it on this slide, then go on to the next slide.
A turkey is named Guy. He eats pancakes. Then he goes to the doctor. Guy goes to the dining room to rest. Then he wins a contest. Then he goes to the circus.
Now listen as I read the actual story that goes with that story impression. The story is Mr. Pancake Turkey. As I read, think of your story that you wrote. How close is it to the real story? What's the same and what's different? Read along with me as I read aloud. Early one morning, Farmer Francis set out to feed his turkeys. He was the owner of a tiny little turkey farm. He was the poorest man in all the land, but he was happy. He had lots of work to do every day, and most importantly, he had to feed his turkeys. When he walked into his tiny little barn, he noticed something very strange. One of his turkeys was as flat as a pancake. He thought that perhaps the other turkeys were stealing his food. So Farmer Francis put the flat turkey into a separate room so that he could eat by himself. The next day, Farmer Francis set out again to feed his turkeys. When he arrived at the barn, he noticed that the flat turkey was even flatter. He was still as flat as a pancake. "I'm going to call you Mr. Pancake Turkey," said Farmer Francis to the flat turkey, "but I'm also going to make sure you get all plump." "Gobble, gobble," replied Mr. Pancake Turkey. Farmer Francis placed twice as much feed in Mr. Pancake Turkey's feeder and set out to take care of the other turkeys. The next day, Farmer Francis set out again to feed his turkeys. He went in to check on Mr. Pancake Turkey to see if he had gained any weight. Mr. Pancake Turkey was still flat, but all of the food was gone. "Why aren't you getting plump?" Farmer Francis said, frustrated. "Gobble, gobble," replied Mr. Pancake Turkey. Farmer Francis decided to take Mr. Pancake Turkey to the doctor. "My turkey won't get plump. Can you help?" pleaded Farmer Francis to the doctor. "Well," replied the doctor, "there is one thing you can do. You can eat with your turkey to make sure he is eating all his food." "Gobble, gobble," replied Mr. Pancake Turkey. That evening, Farmer Francis brought Mr. Pancake Turkey inside his house to eat with him and his wife. "What on earth are you doing bringing a turkey into the dining room?" bellowed Mrs. Farmer Francis. "I need to make sure that he eats and gets plump," said Farmer Francis. "He's too flat." "He looks as flat as a pancake," said Mrs. Farmer Francis. "Yes, he does," replied Farmer Francis. "Gobble, gobble," replied Mr. Pancake Turkey. Mr. Pancake Turkey ate everything that Mrs. Farmer Francis and Farmer Francis fed him. He ate and he ate and he ate and he ate, but he still didn't get any plumper. Not one little bit. "What am I going to do with you?" asked Farmer Francis. "Gobble, gobble," replied Mr. Pancake Turkey. Farmer Francis decided to take Mr. Pancake Turkey to a pumpkin pie eating contest. They watched as all the contestants ate as much pumpkin pie as they could, and the person who could eat the most would win a trophy. The biggest man in all the land was there, and he ate 15 pumpkin pies. "You need to eat like him," said Farmer Francis. "Gobble, gobble," replied Mr. Pancake Turkey. Farmer Francis simply couldn't win. Mr. Pancake Turkey just wouldn't get any bigger. He didn't know what to do. "Why don't you take him to the circus?" suggested Mrs. Farmer Francis one day. "No one has ever seen a flat turkey before." Farmer Francis thought it was a great idea and decided to take Mr. Pancake Turkey to the circus. Everyone was amazed to see such a strange-looking turkey, and it wasn't long before word got out and people started coming from all over the country to see Farmer Francis's special turkey. He became the most famous man in all the land. Farmer Francis became famous for his flat turkey. He began traveling around the country showing everyone how special his flat turkey was. He was no longer the poorest man in all the land. With the money he made, he was able to buy a new, big barn. He had everything that he could have possibly dreamed. "I have everything I could have ever imagined." "Yes, you do," said Mrs. Farmer Francis. "Gobble, gobble," replied Mr. Pancake Turkey. Now it's time to take your second piece of paper. Please draw 2 circles, just like the ones that you see here on the screen. We're going to make a Venn diagram to compare your story and the story Mr. Pancake Turkey. Make sure you label them just like this. Your story will be on the left, Mr. Pancake Turkey will be on the right, and then in the middle where our circles overlap, we will talk about things that they both have in common. Go ahead and draw your Venn diagram now. When you're done, you can fill it in. Now that you're done with your Venn diagram, I want you to share it with us. So make a video comment here and hold your Venn diagram up. Explain to us the things that were just in your story, the things that were just in Mr. Pancake Turkey, and the things that you decided were in both stories.
This is my tape diagram. It has my story, both, and Mr. Pancake's turkey. In my story, the turkey was not flat, and he didn't work at the circus or make money at the circus, but he was flat, and Mr. Pancake Turkey in the book, and then he did work at the circus or make some money at the circus. Nothing really. That's my tape diagram of my book.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us. To end today's lesson, you have the opportunity to listen to yet another turkey story. This story is about a turkey that is plenty plump that also does not get eaten for Thanksgiving. Not this turkey. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the story. To begin hearing the story, click the icon of the movie camera at the left side of your screen. Not this turkey. When I was still a baby, my family moved to the United States. We lived in a tenement house on 33 Debevoise Street in Williamsburg. Me, Mama, and Papa, and then my little brother David, who was born in America. Every morning after Papa walked me to school, he would take the train to Mr. Deutsch's pocketbook factory on the Lower East Side. He said that when the subway crossed over the Williamsburg Bridge, he could see all the way to the Empire State Building. Papa said he sometimes missed Germany, but he also liked figuring out how things were done in America. Like the morning Mrs. Deutsch told Papa to put his name down for the Thanksgiving raffle. "What's a raffle?" Papa asked. "Don't be such a greenhorn," said Mrs. Deutsch. "It's a Thanksgiving prize." We'd been living in New York for 4 years, but we'd never celebrated Thanksgiving. Mama made stuffed cabbage and noodle kugel for our holidays. But that day, Papa said to Mrs. Deutsch, "Why not? New country, new celebration." It was almost closing time when Mr. Deutsch came out of his office and yelled, "Time for the raffle." "Who cares?" said Mr. Schwartz. "That cheapskate Deutsch is probably giving away a sack of potatoes." But Papa had a funny feeling in the pit of his stomach, like the way he felt when we got our visas to come to America. Mr. Deutsch put his hand into the cardboard box and pulled out a piece of paper. "And the winner is," announced Mr. Deutsch, "Baruch Silberklein." Everyone clapped. Papa couldn't believe it. He won. "Mazel tov, Mr. Silberklein," said Mr. Deutsch. "You can celebrate Thanksgiving this year." Mrs. Deutsch came out of her office lugging a huge turkey behind her. "Here you go, Silberklein," said Mr. Deutsch. "Your very own turkey." Papa looked at the turkey. It was bigger than any chicken Mama had ever made. "How will you get it home?" asked Mr. Schwartz. "The J train," Papa sighed. "How else?" It was a long walk to the subway. Papa was never so glad to see the train pull into the station. But it wasn't so easy once he got on. The turkey was noisy. When they reached the Flushing Avenue stop,
Papa took the turkey out of the box and held on to its rope, but as soon as he stepped off the train, a big gust of wind blew off his fedora. Papa ran after his hat, and the turkey ran in the other direction. "Come back here," yelled Papa. Papa ran after the turkey and grabbed the rope. Then he ran after his hat and caught it with his shoe. Finally, holding on tightly to his hat, Papa and the turkey walked down the stairs to the street. All the neighbors stopped to stare at Papa and his turkey when he walked down our street. "What you got there, Mr. Silverplane?" asked Mrs. Caparimo. Papa just smiled at her and pulled the turkey up the stairs to the 4th floor where we lived. He opened the door and called out, "Rivka, Mel, come see what I brought home today." "Was ist das?" asked Mama. "It's for Thanksgiving," said Papa. I knew all about eating turkey on Thanksgiving. I couldn't believe we got to have a real live bird in our house. The turkey followed me around the apartment all afternoon, gobble-gobbling. Papa said the turkey was a he. Every time I turned around, the turkey would stick out his tail and puff up his feathers. Papa said that was because the turkey thought I was a hen. That made me laugh. Papa thought we should call the turkey Indik. That's the Yiddish word for turkey. Mama didn't think we should name the turkey at all. "A turkey doesn't belong in a 4th floor walk-up," said Mama. "He belongs with Mr. Cohen." Mr. Cohen was our butcher. I didn't want to think about bringing Indik there, but Mama was thinking about what to make for Thanksgiving, which was only in 2 days. Now that we had a turkey, she was inviting the whole family to dinner. Aunt Shandell was making stuffed cabbage, and Aunt Hanella was bringing her famous noodle kugel. "Now we'll have turkey too," said Mama, just like all the neighbors. I sat at the window, leaning against Indik's feathers. I didn't want to lose him. The next morning, Papa said we had to bring Indik over to Mr. Cohen's shop before school. Papa held on tight to Indik's rope, and I held on to Papa's other hand. I kept hoping Indik would run away down Dub of Wall Street, just like he had on the subway platform. But he stayed with Papa all the way to Mr. Cohen's butcher shop. "Where'd you get that bird?" asked Mr. Cohen. "He must weigh at least 30 pounds. "I want him at the raffle at work," said Papa. "He's our first Thanksgiving dinner." I looked at Indik to see if he was listening. I wanted him to know that if we cooked him for dinner, I wasn't going to eat him. Then I held my breath, waiting to see what Mr. Cohen would say. "Not this turkey," said Mr. Cohen with a big laugh. "He's too old. He'll be too tough to eat." What a relief, I thought. "Let him stay here with me and eat all the scraps in the yard," he said. "But what will we eat for Thanksgiving dinner?" asked Papa. "Mama already invited the whole family over." "Stick with the side dishes," said Mr. Cohen. "They're the best part of the holiday." I ran home after school to tell Mama we wouldn't be having Indik for Thanksgiving dinner. "But what will we serve?" she asked. "We can't just have kugel and stuffed cabbage. That's not what Americans eat." "Yes, we can," I told Mama. "Mrs. Caporimo says it's important to serve foods from the old country. She said she's making lasagna, and I bet Mrs. Murphy is making Irish soda bread." "That's their tradition," said Mama. She stopped to think for a moment. "But I guess it makes sense. It's our first Thanksgiving, so we'll make the foods that feel special to us." On Thanksgiving Day, Uncle Moshe and Aunt Shandell and Aunt Hanella and Uncle Max and Pearl and Joey and Luna and Sam all came over. We sat down at the table, which was really the kitchen table and the sewing machine pushed together and covered with Mama's best white tablecloth. Mama brought out a big noodle kugel, and Aunt Shandell carried in the stuffed cabbage. "Who needs turkey?" said Papa, and we all laughed. He looked at all of us and said, "This is what we're thankful for, that we're all here and we're all together." Guess what? Eating noodle kugel on Thanksgiving became our family's tradition. And Indik really liked it too. I brought him a big piece the next day, and he ate it all up.
Hi, you're still here. Great. So now you have 3 turkey stories that we could talk about. Take your third piece of paper and draw a fancy Venn diagram like this one. 3 circles overlapping. And label them so that they match what's on the screen. Your story at the top, Mr. Pancake Turkey over here on the left, and not this turkey over on the right. Go ahead, Pause for a moment and do that. When you're ready, unpause me. Okay, so you have your Venn diagram set up. Remember, where they are over on the side, you're putting things that are just about that story. But where they overlap, they have to share things in common. In the middle here, you're going to put things that all three of those stories have. They all have a turkey. So right now you should take your pencil and you should write turkey right there in the middle. Go ahead, fill in your Venn diagram. When you're done with your Venn diagram, you can respond to this slide by making a video. Hold up your Venn diagram and tell us what was different in these three stories and what did you find that was the same? Terrific. I've really enjoyed seeing your work. Thank you so much for sharing with me. Before we go, I have a video clip from the author of Mr. Pancake Turkey. This version of the book is a little bit different than the version you read. So take a moment, no writing right now, just listen and enjoy, and then have a great day.
Hello, my name is Chris Francis, and I am the author of the book Mr. Pancake Turkey. Now, I'm from Canada, but I hear in the United States that you are having your Thanksgiving really soon. Early one morning, Farmer Francis set out to feed his turkeys. When he walked into his tiny old barn, he noticed something very strange. One of his turkeys was as thin as a pancake. "I should call you Mr. Pancake Turkey," announced Farmer Francis, "but I also need you nice and ready and plump for Thanksgiving." "Gobble, gobble," replied Mr. Pancake Turkey. Farmer Francis decided to give Mr. Pancake Turkey more food than usual and check on him again in the morning. "See you tomorrow," said Farmer Francis. "Eat all of your food." "Gobble, gobble," replied Mr. Pancake Turkey. The next day, Farmer Francis returned to his little old barn and noticed Mr. Pancake Turkey was even thinner. He decided it was time to take Mr. Pancake Turkey to the vet. "My turkey won't get plump," pleaded Farmer Francis. "Well," replied the vet, "there is one thing you can do. You can eat with your turkey to make sure he is finishing up all of his food." "Good idea," replied Farmer Francis. "Gobble, gobble," replied Mr. Pancake Turkey. That evening, Farmer Francis brought Mr. Pancake Turkey inside his house to eat with him and Mrs. Farmer Francis. He ate baked beans, broccoli, carrots, squash, corn on the cob, and mashed potatoes. He ate, and he ate, and he ate, and he ate. But he still didn't get any plumper, not one little bit. "What am I going to do with you?" asked Farmer Francis. "Gobble, gobble," replied Mr. Pancake Turkey. Farmer Francis decided to take Mr. Pancake Turkey to the zoo. He thought he would show him the fattest and plumpest animals, hoping that they would inspire Mr. Pancake Turkey. He showed him the hippos, the elephants, the pigs, and the largest bird in all the land, the ostrich. "You need to get nice and big like these animals," demanded Farmer Francis. "Gobble, gobble," replied Mr. Pancake Turkey. But Mr. Pancake Turkey still didn't get any bigger. So Farmer Francis decided to take him to a pumpkin pie eating contest. The biggest man in all the land was there, and he ate 15 pumpkin pies. You need to eat like him, said Farmer Francis. Gobble, gobble, replied Mr. Pancake Turkey. But Mr. Pancake Turkey still didn't get any plumper. It was time for Farmer Francis to take him to the grocery store. He bought Mr. Pancake Turkey all the food he could have ever imagined. Farmer Francis bought fruit, vegetables, pasta, breads, milk, and ice cream. You have all the food in the world to choose from. Now eat, said Farmer Francis. Gobble, gobble, replied Mr. Pancake Turkey. But Mr. Pancake Turkey still didn't plump up. Farmer Francis was confused. The only thing he could think of was to take him to the local gym. Farmer Francis knew how lifting weights made people big and strong. You need to lift weights so you can be big and giant like these men, demanded Farmer Francis. Gobble, gobble, replied Mr. Pancake Turkey. But Mr. Pancake Turkey was still as flat as can be. Farmer Francis finally had enough. He simply couldn't get Mr. Pancake Turkey plump. I give up, said Farmer Francis with a sigh. He walked Mr. Pancake Turkey back to the barn to join the others. It was just no use. Goodbye, Mr. Pancake Turkey, said Farmer Francis, closing the barn door. Gobble, replied Mr. Pancake Turkey. Gobble, whimpered Mr. Pancake Turkey. Gobble, stuttered Mr. Pancake Turkey. One evening, Farmer Francis was eating dinner with Mrs. Farmer Francis when he heard a strange sound coming from the barn. Gobble, 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 gobble. Farmer Francis ran to the barn to find Mr. Pancake Turkey sobbing. He picked him up and took him straight back to the vet. Mr. Pancake Turkey is sick, cried Farmer Francis. What am I to do? The vet looked at Farmer Francis and smiled. He's not sick. He's sad. He is? Asked Farmer Francis. Gobble, gobble, replied Mr. Pancake Turkey. It was right then and there that Farmer Francis realized what he had done. While he was trying to turn Mr. Pancake Turkey into something he was not, he ended up making a new friend. And his friend missed him dearly. So instead of having plump turkey for dinner that Thanksgiving, Farmer Francis decided to have all the turkeys over for a Thanksgiving feast. This is the best Thanksgiving ever, sang Farmer Francis. Yes, it is, said Mrs. Farmer Francis. Gobble, gobble, replied Mr. Pancake Turkey. The end. I hope you enjoyed reading Mr. Pancake Turkey, and I hope you have an amazing Thanksgiving. Bye for now.